Hello, my name is Fatima Hawk, and today I'd like to discuss the environmental topic of electronic waste, which is more commonly referred to as e-waste. The main purpose for this video is to teach you all about the environmental hazards regarding e-waste generation and its related health implications, with a focus in China. My first question though is, have you ever wondered what happens to your old phones or computers you throw away? Well, I thought this quote said by Annie Leonard, a proponent of sustainability, was quite relevant to the topic, where there's no such thing as going away and it all just has to go somewhere. And more likely than not, your electronic junk will end up in what is known to be the electronic graveyard of the world, Guiyu, China. Here is a brief overview of the figures that I will cover throughout the slides. I will talk about the different types of e-waste, where it's most prevalent, human health consequences, and the presence of legislation. Since China is our focus, I will continuously develop a narrative for Guiyu throughout the presentation. But first, let's define what exactly e-waste means. According to the UN Environmental Program, e-waste is referred to as any end-of-life equipment which is dependent on electrical currents or electromagnetic fields in order to properly work. These equipments also have no intention for reuse. Given this definition, there is a vast group of objects that could fit the term. This line chart from the Pew Research Center depicts the temporal relationship between some popular electronic devices with respect to the 2006-2016 decade. As you can see, there are sharp increases across all categories as time passes, which reflects the rising popularity in consumer-based products. This also proportionally affects the growing waste in our system, in which the uptake of electronic usage is typically driven by the reliance on information communications and technology. To expand on this narrative, here we have a pie chart to display the broader distinguishing features of e-waste production. Each category has its own umbrella of equipment that fits its criteria. This can range from large household appliances like fridges or dishwashers to small equipment such as consumer items like headphones and MP3 players. Several of these products are built with the chemicals and compounds that can pose detrimental health effects if exposed to them directly. That's why, as our societies become increasingly advanced and produce more tech-savvy products, it is important to understand where our electronics end up. Let's take a look at where e-waste is mostly generated. This bar graph is an extrapolation of data from the Global E-Waste Monitor published in 2017. Here we have a breakdown of e-generation by continent, and evidently, Asia takes the top ranking for most generation and collection site, partly due to the rural community of Guiyu, China. China has a long reputation as a dumping site for e-waste since the 70s. And throughout the tremendous tides of global economics, many of these products that originate in China end up back there as its final destination. Currently, there is an evolving dynamic in which developed countries like the US send over their electronic trash to developing countries to promote recycling or for donation purposes. However, this is a large facade. And although China has banned its imports, e-waste is still largely shipped overseas illegally because of its high revenue output. It is certainly a booming industry, however, it comes at the cost of the residents' well-being. In Guiyu, China, many of the residents exhibit substantial digestive, neurological, respiratory, and bone problems. Here is a list of chemical substances present in electrical equipment. These toxins can reach human populations through air emissions, groundwater seepages, and direct contact. This pollution nightmare is enabled by the treatment practices workers use to separate metals, organic materials, and elements for economic purposes. Methods include heating circuit boards, cutting wires, and the burning of materials. And all these practices harbor an extremely unsafe and hazardous environment. Additionally, village residents also complain of the various ecological and aesthetic issues with living near the waste site. In 2007, a study published in the Environmental Health Perspective journal, it was found that lead among children in Guiyu exceeded normal levels of consumption, which posed a serious threat to their overall health. So this develops a question, why does this all happen? Well, to answer simply, it's because there's a lack of e-waste management. This chart portrays data of countries in the world that have legislation versus those who don't. Ideal systems should set minimum recycling requirements, collection and recycling targets to ensure that e-waste is managed in an environmentally sound manner. However, this ideal is still not a reality for a good portion of the world today. From a public health standpoint, this lack of cohesion throughout our globe makes it more difficult to monitor and quantify trends if reporting is not being done. Implementation strategies could become a lot more effective if we just had more e-waste competent frameworks around the world. To summarize, it's clear that e-waste generation is on the rise due to the increasing demand for newer and advanced products. Due to the illegal shipments from developed countries, China's ban on e-waste imports have not logistically settled in yet because it is still considered to be the electronic wastebasket of the world today. Toxic exposure and pollutants continue to fester amongst the community members even now. However, to ultimately solve this problem, e-waste management needs to be initiated through the use of several legislative policies to ensure actual change. Thank you for listening.